this is Rumana Ali. In the last class, I have given a brief introduction about the nitrogen cycle and the steps which involves in the nitrogen cycle. And we have also discussed that the first step of nitrogen cycle is nitrogen fixation, which can be achieved by the three types, and that are atmospheric fixation, biological nitrogen fixation and the industrial fixation. And in today's class, I am going to explain you about biological nitrogen fixation in detail. The first step in the symbiotic nitrogen fixation was formation of root nodule, and the second step was nitrogen fixation. And in the second step, we have seen how the conversion of molecular nitrogen into ammonia takes place. When the molecular nitrogen is converted into ammonia, that ammonia is going to be converted into other usable forms like nitrate and nitrite. So how this conversion of ammonia into other usable form is taking place, we will discuss in the third step, nitrification. So under the third step, nitrification, the first thing is the ammonia which is produced by the nitrogen fixation forms ammonium ion, and this ammonium ion on oxidation, or it is oxidized by the presence of some microorganisms like Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter, and these microorganisms are responsible for the oxidation of this ammonium ion. When this ammonium ion is oxidized, it results in the formation of nitrite ions, that is NO2. Now this nitrite ions again on oxidation, or it is again oxidized in the presence of some microorganisms like Nitrobacter, and it results in the formation of other usable form of nitrogen like nitrate ions. When ammonium ion is oxidized by the microorganisms like Nitrosomonas, it forms nitrite, and this nitrite again, when it gets oxidized in the presence of some microorganisms like Nitrobacter, it results in the formation of nitrate ion. So in this way, the ammonia is getting converted into other usable forms like nitrite and nitrate, which can be assimilated by the plants. So let us move to the next step, that is assimilation of nitrogen. In this step, we are going to see how these usable forms are going to be used up by the plants. This step includes some sub-steps. The first one is nitrate assimilation. So this step is about how the nitrate is going to be reduced to form nitrite. When an enzyme nitrate reductase carried out the reduction of nitrate, it results in the formation of nitrite, and the nitrite in the presence of an enzyme nitrite reductase, it is going to reduce and it results in the formation of ammonia. So under the nitrate assimilation, we can see the conversion of nitrate into nitrite and the reduction of nitrite into ammonia. The enzyme nitrate reductase contain molybdenum as a protein in its structure, and the enzyme nitrite reductase contain iron and copper as a protein in its structure. So these are the enzymes which are responsible for the conversion of, or for the reduction of, nitrate to ammonia. When the usable forms like nitrate and nitrite is getting converted into ammonia, then it is used by the plants in the form of ammonia. The next sub-step in the step assimilation of nitrogen is synthesis of amino acid. This ammonia gives some ammonium ions, and these ammonium ions, when reacts with the alpha ketogluteric acid and NADPH, then it gives rise to glutamic acid. This glutamic acid or aspartic acid, it gives rise to glutamic acid or aspartic acid. This glutamic acid is amino acid, and it also gives NADP and water molecule. So in the sub-step synthesis of amino acids, we can see that ammonia is giving an ammonium ion, and this ammonium ion, when combined with the alpha ketogluteric acid and NADPH, it results in the formation of amino acid, and the name of that amino acid is glutamic acid, and also it releases compounds like NADP and a molecule of water. So in this way, the synthesis of amino acid takes place. In the third sub-step of assimilation of nitrogen, we can see the reaction called transamination, and in this process the glutamic acid, which is an amino acid, is using amino group and undergoes the reaction transamination, which results in the formation of all other amino acid, and sometimes it also formed amide groups, and these amide groups are rich in nitrogen. So these amide groups can help in the synthesis of proteins. And when we see the example of soybean, in soybean instead of amines we can see the production of urides, and that urides are helping in the synthesis of amino acids or the proteins. And the last step in the process of symbiotic nitrogen fixation is ammonification. After the death of the plant and animals, the bodies of the plants and animals contain nitrogen in it in the form of proteins. So these biomolecules shows the organic matter in it, and this organic matter is going to be converted into ammonia in presence of some enzymes, and this reaction in which the organic matter is converted into ammonia is called as ammonification. And also the excretory material, which is urea excreted by some animals, is converted into ammonia and carbon dioxide in the presence of an enzyme urease. So this is also showing the production of ammonia, hence it is called as ammonification. In this way, the organic matter is converted into ammonia, and the usable forms of nitrogen can be again converted into molecular nitrogen or atmospheric nitrogen by some specialized denitrifying bacteria, and that process is called as denitrification. So these are certain steps which involves in carrying out the symbiotic nitrogen fixation, which shows the association of a bacteria rhizobium with the root nodules of leguminous plant. Up till we have discussed about the nitrogen fixation or about the metabolism of nitrogen. Let's moving to the next topic of chapter mineral nutrition, that is heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Heterotrophic mode of nutrition means the organisms or the plants depends on others. It cannot prepare their own food. So when they depend on others, that type of nutrition is called as heterotrophic nutrition. So this heterotrophic nutrition is shown by three kinds of plants, that are parasitic plants, saprophytic plants and insectivorous plants. When we see the parasitic plants, we can take an example of Cuscuta. This Cuscuta is a parasitic plant which lives on the host plant, and they absorbs the complete nourishment from the host plant through some specialized roots called Haustoria. Haustoria are the parasitic roots which are present in the parasitic plants, and these roots helps in absorbing the food from the host plant. The next is saprophytic plants. They depend on dead and decaying matter. As they live on dead and decaying matter, they absorb the nourishments or they absorb the food from the dead and decaying matter. And here we can take an example of Indian pipe. The last one is insectivorous plants. These insectivorous plants are autotroph, but they can be able to prepare their own food. They can perform photosynthesis, but as they require amino acids of animal origin, they feed on insects. So this particularity of insectivorous plants makes them to achieve the heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Therefore, in heterotrophic mode of nutrition, we can also take an example of insectivorous plants like picture plant. So these insectivorous plants can be able to prepare their own food, but for certain amino acids, they depend on animals and shows heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Let us recall all the terms and the topics which we have discussed in the chapter mineral nutrition. So the first thing is hydroponic. Hydroponic is a technique of growing plants in a nutrient solution, and by this technique we came to know about the deficiencies and the functions of certain elements. And in the chapter mineral nutrition, we have seen that minerals or the elements are classified into two main types based on the amount in which they are required by the plant, and they are macro elements and micro elements. Macro elements are required by the plant in large amount, and micro elements are required by the plant in a very small quantity or in a smaller amount. The macro elements include 9 elements, and they are carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, hydrogen, potassium, magnesium and calcium. These 9 elements comes under macro elements which are required in the large quantity or in the large amount, and the micro elements include iron, manganese, boron, zinc, copper, chlorine, nickel and molybdenum. These 8 elements are micro elements, and 9 plus 8 is 17. So these 17 are considered as essential elements because it cannot be replaced by other elements and the deficiencies cannot be supplemented by the other elements. So these are considered as essential elements. In this chapter on mineral nutrition, I have explained you some of the macro and the micro nutrients in detail, the functions and the deficiencies. We have already seen the functions and the deficiencies of certain macro and micro elements. The common functions of most of the elements include the synthesis of protein, and in generation of ATP, in cell division, in the activation of certain enzymes, and also in carrying out certain processes like photosynthesis and respiration in the plants. So these are certain common functions which we can see in most of the elements. So these are certain common functions which is performed by most of the elements, and the common deficiencies that we can observe are chlorosis, inhibition of cell division, delayed flowering and necrosis. These are the common symptoms which can result due to the deficiency of most of the elements. And the next is deficiency and mobility of elements. Deficiency is based on the concentration. So it is the concentration or the amount of the mineral ions below which the plant shows the symptoms and below which it shows the deficiency symptoms, and that concentration is called as critical concentration. And the mobility of elements, in this topic mobility of elements, we have taken some examples to understand that how the chlorosis, which is a deficiency symptom, is based on or is depend on the mobility of elements. The mobile elements, when they move from older to younger leaves, the older leaves shows the chlorosis first, and when it cannot move, or the non-mobile elements like calcium, if it is going to be present due to the non-mobility of calcium, it cannot move from older leaves to younger leaves. So the younger leaves shows the deficiency symptom first than the older leaves. So therefore we can see that the chlorosis, yellowing of leaves, is depend on the mobility of elements. The next is toxicity symptoms of micronutrients. We know that micronutrients are required by the plant in small amount. When these micronutrients are present in the large concentration or in the larger amount, then it shows some toxicity symptoms. The toxicity symptom of one mineral ion can reduce the absorption of the other elements. Under this topic, we have seen an example of manganese, how the higher concentration of manganese reduces or decreases the absorption of iron, copper and calcium. So this is about the toxicity symptoms of micronutrients, and the toxicity can be defined as the concentration or the higher concentration which reduces the dry weight of the plant by 10%. So this is called as toxicity concentration, which results the symptoms of toxicity by the micronutrients. The next is source and translocation. What is the source where these elements are present? So soil is a source or the reservoir of many or of all the elements. So soil acts as a source and the reservoir of all the elements, and from the soil it has to move to the roots and then to the other parts of the plant. So the translocation of minerals from the soil to the roots and then from the roots to the stem and then to leaves is carried out by the specialized tissue called xylem. So the translocation is carried out by the xylem. And the next is mechanism of absorption of elements. How the absorption of element takes place. So the absorption of elements from the soil takes place either by passive transport or by active transport. In passive transport, we can see the apoplastic movement, and this process is going to take place without any expenditure of energy, and the movement of the mineral ions can be seen only through the cell wall. Whereas in the active transport or in the symplastic movement, the water or the mineral ions crosses the cell membrane and reaches to the xylem vessels of the root. So this is about the mechanism of absorption of element, which shows the passive absorption by apoplastic pathway and active absorption by symplastic pathway with the expenditure of energy. The next is metabolism of nitrogen. Nitrogen is one of the major element which is required by the plant to carry out many of its activities. So the metabolism of nitrogen includes nitrogen cycle, how the nitrogen is going to convert into usable forms and how it is going to be assimilated by the plants. So in this nitrogen cycle, we have discussed that there are 5 main steps which constitutes the nitrogen cycle, and the first step is nitrogen fixation. The nitrogen can be fixed by the 3 types of fixation, and they are atmospheric fixation, industrial fixation and biological nitrogen fixation. In atmospheric fixation, the UV rays of the light helps to convert the molecular nitrogen into the usable forms, and in industrial nitrogen fixation, the certain chemical reactions which is going to take place in the industries helps in the conversion of molecular nitrogen into the usable forms. By the biological nitrogen fixation, the nitrogen can be converted into ammonia. In this chapter, we have studied the biological nitrogen fixation in detail. In this biological nitrogen fixation, we have studied about the certain steps like root nodule formation, nitrogen fixation, nitrification, nitrogen assimilation, ammonification and denitrification. Biological nitrogen fixation, or we can say the symbiotic nitrogen fixation. Symbiotic nitrogen fixation is a process in which the root nodule formation takes place, and it shows the association with the bacteria called rhizobium. So the association between the bacteria rhizobium and the root nodule makes the process of nitrogen fixation to carry out in the plant body. As I said you, the nitrogenase in symbiotic nitrogen fixation, nitrogenase is a very important enzyme and it requires anaerobic condition, and this enzyme helps in the formation of root nodule. And in the nitrogen fixation step, we have seen how the conversion of molecular nitrogen into ammonia takes place. Then that ammonia is going to convert it into nitrates and nitrites, that is called as nitrification, and that usable forms like nitrate and nitrite is going to used up by the plants, that is called nitrogen assimilation. And the ammonification is the last step, which shows the conversion of organic matter into ammonia, and the usable forms of nitrogen like ammonia, nitrate and nitrite is converted back to the molecular nitrogen by some specialized denitrifying bacteria, and this step is called denitrification. So this is about the symbiotic nitrogen fixation. With this, we have completed our chapter mineral nutrition. Thank you.